Good evening, everyone, and you are now watching the first initial the Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm with Athletics Director and Head Boys Basketball Coach Corey Black to my left, and to my right, the Head Girls Coach Bryant Thomas. We're going to be doing this throughout the season, every 2 weeks, and we're going to be updating what's happening in Pacelli Lady Vikings and Vikings basketball. And let's start with Coach. I like doing background history. Coach, I've had you on like 5 million times, but we always get new viewers and new people on. So when did you come here to Pacelli? What was your first year? And then how's the progression been for now? What is this, year, what, 7, 8?
This is going to year 8. So we started the first year, we went 0-22. That was fun, and I never forget it. I never forget it because you never forget where you started.
Right.
Then the next year we went 5-21. Then we went 13-14. Then I think we got to 15 wins, 17 wins. Last year we ended up coming up short in the state championship. So it's been a journey, and we're excited about year number 8. Yeah,
no doubt about it. I know he skimmed over a little bit. I gotta give him some love, man, because this guy, from the progressions, from going from 0 wins to in public school going to the quarterfinals with my guy Deuce Harper and the rest of those boys that really hooped that are playing at the next level. By the way, Deuce is doing his thing at Clayton State, so shout out to Travis Deuce Harper. To last year coming up within 3 seconds of winning a state championship, and journey's not done. Still got a lot you want to accomplish, Coach. But then you got on the responsibility of AD a few years ago, and then last year you were tasked to find someone to lead the girls program, and a program that didn't have a lot of success, Coach, let's be honest, in the recent years. So why'd you decide to go in the direction to get Bryant?
Hard worker, passionate about, coaching girl student athletes, which is hard to find, and he has a way of connecting with them. So that's why we went with Brian, connections to the community, connecting with the young ladies. So it was an easy decision.
Well, how did you know Bryant? Is it from CSU, your coaching days then?
Probably Columbus State, Georgia Blazer back days, having them in there. I helped them on this journey of finding a college basketball scholarship where I was, what I'm always about trying to help these kids. So I think that's where it started, back from the Georgia Blazer, and took them on a couple of visits. And that's where we started a relationship from.
Yeah, everyone knows him now as that's the Pacelli guy, because he is Mr. Pacelli and Corey. But if you really know Coach Black and CB Hoops and how many, including Bryant, myself, my brother, and many other people that got to the next level because of all the exposure camps and Coach Black talking to colleges for us. But Bryant, you had a really successful playing career at CSU, and then you decided to get in the coaching realm. You're a really good trainer, perfect practice is where people knew you, but why did you decide you wanted to be a lead guy for a program?
Just follow the vision of Corey Black. I watched him from 0-22 and how he started building it, and from not just the basketball side, but the whole athletic program. And I think we have an opportunity here to do something special with all girls program. So that's why I stepped in and became a girls head coach, and kind of helped out a little bit with the flag football team too this year. So
yeah, I know y'all were proud about that. And Coach, shout out to Jeremy, shout out to Coach Cochran, state champions, back to back, nationally ranked, by the way. They're probably going to finish in the top 15. I was talking with Jeremy this few days ago, and he is so proud of that. I told him every time he goes around and introduces himself, he's going to be introduced himself like this with his ring on his finger. But Bryant, one more question for you, and then we're going to take a break, and then me and Coach Black will talk it up with some boys basketball, and then we'll take another break, and it'll be me and Bryant one-on-one as well. You've always been on the boys side, correct? But you did training for all, but you were more specifically with boys. What led you to girls? I know you got a daughter who can ball, and she'll be a future Viking. But why did you decide you wanted to go the girls route? And has it been different for you to do that?
I got on the girls side just because, first, like I said, I got a daughter. But when you're coaching boys and you at practice sometime, and you go shirts and skins, and your daughter starts seeing it, she take her shirt off. So I had to make a decision and get over here to the girls, because I got to help her get to her dream, what she's trying to do. So. Just helping girls, that's how I got involved on the girls side.
That's awesome. And we'll be talking about that. As Coach, you came up just short on Thursday. We'll talk about that game in just a moment. It's the Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show every Sunday right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We're going to take a quick break, and then me and Coach Black will do some one-on-one. We'll be back for more. Welcome back to the Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and I am with Athletics Director and Head Boys Basketball Coach, Coach Corey Black, from 0-22 to state runner-up last year. And you know what, this is just me, Coach will never say it, but it was probably one of the most egregious calls I've ever seen in a state championship game. We're not going to go down that road, Coach. No excuses. But from 1% better, we'll start there. That was your mantra. Mm-hmm. We heard it last night, Jalen Milroe saying 1% better. And the first person I thought was, hey, that's Coach Black, man. Look at Jalen Milroe using Coach Black saying. But now you went to 2%. What was the whole thought process on that, Coach?
Well, you know, when we started the 1%, we got all the way to the state championship game, and we came up a little short.
Yep.
And, you know, the end goal is to win the state championship. So for us to get there, we got to get another % better. So 1% ain't going to get it, obviously. Yep. So we said, let's bump it up to 2% and let's see what happens now.
Yeah, and you're missing some players from last year's team that, you know, Cam Ellis, who had an excellent year. The big guy that Kingston Salmon had a great season as well. Also, the shooter, Keandre Harris, he had a phenomenal season. Replace them, but you got a young but extremely talented team, Coach. Yeah. And looking at your roster, this is one of your biggest teams. I think one of the more talented teams, but leadership is one thing that someone's got to step into that Cam Ellis role. So let's look up and down your roster. You return your leading scorer, T.J. Smith. You return back all-athlete, world athlete, A.Z. Justy. Also, Jaden Ford, who was the leading scorer in the state championship game as a freshman, put up 25 points. He's going to be averaging double digits this year. If you had to ask who would be more in that leadership role, Coach, who's going to take that on, or do you even know yet?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Right now, I can tell you that Trent Latham and Jaden Ford has been doing a really good job of leading our program and doing things to be great leaders. So right now, Jaden Ford and Trent Latham did a really good job of leading us.
Yeah, and Latham got some playing time last year, but obviously as a sophomore, he feels like he's going to have a bigger role this year, Coach. And he had a really good offseason, especially in the CB Hoops Perfect Practice Fall League. A.Z. Justy, I think he is one of the most athletic guys I've ever seen. But he's a really good football player. On the basketball side, he's still learning some things. So how has his progression come from a really good football season to now trying to get in basketball shape?
Yeah, and that's the key, just getting in basketball shape. You know, he come out here on the first day out of football and tweak his back a little, just because, you know, just the movement and stuff. So we're working through the little back right now, but he's coming along. He's still here. He's still involved in practice. He's still leading as a senior should be.
Yep, and I'm going to try to touch on as many players as I can. I'm sorry, guys, if we don't touch on everyone. There's going to be many other shows throughout the year. We're going to have 30 of these probably. So trust me, if anyone left out, don't blame Coach Black. You can blame me. But I do want to talk about, before we get to Jaden's, Christian Brown. I'm going to be honest. I was really blown away on how well he played the quarterback position this year. To step into, again, Cam Ellis' role and fill in the shoes for a guy that led Pacelli to a state championship. I thought that's a lot of pressure, Coach. And from the guy I saw that played Glenwood to the guy I saw at the end of the season, totally different guy. Do you think that has helped him maybe come out of his shell to maybe have a good basketball season?
Yeah, I hope so. I think he did fill that role. He don't probably get enough credit on the football field as he should have, if leading us to a really good season that we did in football. And you hope that translates to the basketball court. And he has a chance to start for us at the point guard position to take Jaden off the ball and Christian bring it up. He got good size on him. You know, he's a quarterback. You want your point guard to be a quarterback. So between him and Deuce Moore, they both got a chance to lead us at that point guard position. And hopefully that football will help him lead on the basketball court.
Yeah, Deuce Moore is going to have a really special season. Had a really good football season in the secondary. Expect big things from him on the basketball court. T.J. Smith, last year, could fill it up from beyond the arc. But what are some things you really wanted him to work on to become that all-around player that we know he can be?
Yeah, ball handling, I would say. TJ probably one of the best shooters in the state. No question about it. Any classification, he can shoot the basketball, and he's going to have to really shoot it well for us to be successful. He shot 44% from the three last year. We're going to need that or better this year for us to get to where we want to go.
Yep. All right, and now let's talk about some guys that have all the potential in the world, and they're going to be able to showcase it this year. There's 3 of them. Michael Rowe, who's going to be a freshman. That is Matthew Melvin and Makai Williams. All right, these guys, if you look at them, they got the body type. They're 6'4", 6'5". They can score anywhere on the court. They can handle the rock. But, you know, it's a big jump to go from not playing much the previous year. I know injuries and stuff had to deal with that, to then being a starter this year. So you're putting a lot of trust in them. What's the growth with them, and what are your expectations for Melvin, Rowe, and Williams?
Makai Williams, we pushing every single day. It's a war for him every practice. He coming here and he don't know what's going to hit him. But it's going to prepare him, you know, for what's coming, because it's coming. If you haven't seen our schedule, it's coming. And Matthew Melvin, just all the confidence thing, trusting his shot. He can shoot it. He's a good player. Michael Rowe, freshman. He snuck in a couple minutes last year as an 8th grader.
He did.
Hopefully that'll help us this year. But they're young. We have to remember they're young. But, you know, at 7:30 on Friday night, nobody's going to care that they're a freshman or a sophomore. You're going to have to be ready. And that's what it comes through in practice and getting them ready.
And let's talk about your coach staff. By the way, Jalen Bush, another guy who was really good 3-and-D guy last year, looking to take on a bigger role this year, another starter, a guy that I think is coming to himself. And I've seen the aggressiveness in that CBU's fall league, and I was really impressed with him. Your coaching staff, you got your statistician. Shout out to our guy, Brian Evans. Have to shout him out. Love him. But you got Ross, Coach Seidel, you got Coach Mahone, and you got Coach Ford. Talk about what those guys mean to you, Coach.
And we added Malcolm Holyfield.
I forgot about him.
From assistant coach from Central. Great individual guy. Go in there and work a development guy. So our staff is good. You know, when you got somebody like Coach Mahone on your staff, you know, he come to practice, I get out the way, I sit down, and I shut up. I understand it. You know, the guy been doing it 45 years.
Wow.
And I'm just
That's
blessed.
a gymnasium named after him, so come on.
Correct. And I'm just blessed to be able to have him a part of what we're doing and giving back to myself and our team, and I don't take it for granted. So you got him, you got Coach Ford that loves to be in the gym, just stays in the gym. He'll coach anybody. That's one thing I like about Coach Ford, is that he coaches everybody, anybody. You can play, you can't play, you want to be developed. He don't mind coaching them, man. Doesn't complain about it. It's hard to find those kind of guys like that. Coach Holyfield helps with the individual, and Coach Seidel is somebody you got to have that just does everything.
Does the little things.
Does everything. You know, where the uniforms at? Where's this kid? Coach called that kid. Make sure he does everything. So I got a great staff. You know, you're only as good as your staff. And I'm looking forward to the year in that staff.
I am too, and they were a great staff last year. By the way, one of his staff members, Jonathan Gordon, is now with the Calvary Vikings. And this is, Calvary Vikings, Calvary Knights. But when you win, people want to start picking from your staff, and you know that's going to happen, Coach. But that's why next man up, and that's why you got Coach Malcolm Holyfield. Malcolm Holyfield, we appreciate him. All right, now let's talk about the schedule, because it's brutal for those who don't know.
Who made that schedule?
He's a crazy person is what he is. You play Bethlehem Christian on GIAA school. We'll be there for that. We're going to be there for a majority of these games, guys. Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Looking forward to it. Bethlehem Christian is the first one. And then here's the next gauntlet. You got Christian Heritage, went to the Final Four 1A public school on Friday. Then on Saturday here at the Lane, you take on Valdosta State. They're a top 2 program. What are they, 3A, 4A?
7A.
7A, excuse me. I should have known that. They're 7A. Of course, Coach Black's scheduling a 7A public school who's ranked top 2 in the state. Then you play Douglas County. Then you play South Paulding on the road, at Warner Robins, at Tift County, at Daugherty. You got a tournament you're going to. Then you got at Newton, and then of course at Sandy Creek, and then at Douglas County, and then at Baldwin. And then you have all the other GIAA schools in your region, like Westfield, Brookstone, Strong Rock Christian, St. Mary's Academy. Coach, what was the purpose in scheduling these schools who are 7A schools that are going to bring in like Valdosta State? I was talking with Jeremy Hayes. He said they got a 6'10" guy that's going to be playing D1 next year. What was the purpose of playing them instead of playing teams that you know you probably could beat? You could have an undefeated record. I don't think you care about that kind of stuff, do you?
No, I don't. It's about getting us prepared to win a state championship, to have us ready for that tournament in March. You know, we want to be over there at Columbus State at the Lumpkin Center on March the 1st at 8 o'clock, playing for the state championship. And we hope with this schedule we are prepared for anything that comes our way to get us to Columbus State on March 1st. So I didn't want to play any local games. I didn't want to beat up on people. I just wanted to go play the best competition we could possibly find for our guys. And this is the other part of it. Our guys have dreams and aspirations playing at the next level. So when you got those dreams and aspirations, you got to go compete against the Sandy Creeks and the Valdosta's, the Tift Counties, the Warner Robins, the Douglas Counties that got guys that are getting recruited from coaches from the next level. They don't want to see you beating up on other teams by 50, 60 points. They can't evaluate that, but they can evaluate you against Christian Heritage, Valdosta, Sandy Creek, Newton, because they are watching those teams play. So I'm just trying to put our guys it's really more about putting them against other guys that are really talented.
Yeah, and then, Coach, you can take it off the chin early because then that's a learning experience. You don't talking about a loss. It's a learning experience that gets you better towards the end of the season. And I can't wait because a lot of these schools, like Valdosta is going to be here at the Land. You need to come and watch that. We'll also have it on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Christian Heritage, Douglas County, all those will be here. And then the rest of them will be on the road. And we're going to try to go to as many road games as we can to broadcast them, including Sandy Creek. And that was a pretty good game last year.
Yeah.
It came down to depth, I think, a little bit towards the end, where Sandy Creek just able to overwhelm them. But, Coach, we're excited. You got Bethlehem Christian. Anything you want to, tell everyone out there that, well, for one, how much does it cost to come to the game? What time do the games start? It's girls and boys. And what should we look out for when we're watching Bethlehem Christian?
Yeah, Bethlehem coming here really good. They made it to the Elite Eight last year. Yeah. Really well-coached team.
Got some shooters.
Got some shooters, just fundamentally sound. It's the other thing, they done played a couple games already. This will be our first game.
Good point.
We just coming off the football field. We had limited practices with everybody. So it's going to be interesting in these first couple games. We're going to learn a lot about our team, learn a lot about our coaching staff in these first couple weeks of the season because it ain't easy, and that's okay. We didn't want it easy. And we all got these dreams, aspirations, and goals. And this is a journey and a process that we got to take.
And varsity girls play at 6:30, boys at 8. Yep. And then how much does it cost for people if they want to come?
$8.
$8. And can they pay here, or do they need to go to an online
site? They can pay here or online. Either way works.
Okay. Well, make sure y'all do that. Pacelli Sports is the Facebook page. You can get tickets there. And also Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Coach, thank you so much. And we're going to talk with Bryant Thomas here in just a moment. It's the Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Welcome back here to the Pacelli Basketball Coach Show on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Thrift Behringer, your host and play-by-play announcer for the Vikings. And Lady Vikings just got done with my one-on-one with Coach Black, and now it's time with the one-on-one with Coach Bryant Thomas. All right, Coach Thomas, let's go ahead and get into it. Harris County was the first team you played, and just like with the boys, But honestly, you were missing a lot more players than Coach Black was because, Coach Black was missing like 4 or 5 when they were playing football, but he had 4 or 5 that were still here, 7 or 8 that were still here to practice. On the flip side with you, you had half your team playing flag football. So you didn't have that long to practice. So talk about that learning experience you had on Thursday coming up short against Harris County.
It's a great learning experience. Played against an experienced Harris County team. Got two players that can play at the next level, Janiyah Broom and Brooke Bass.
Yeah.
We got a good taste of what they can really do, and we're going to see a lot of players like that throughout this year. So it was good to see them see some talent like that early. An experienced team that's been together since middle school. So we're just a young group that's just getting together. So we need a little bit more time, a little more practice, some game experience, especially when you got a lot of young guards that haven't played at the high school level and understand court spacing, getting back, shot selection. So that was part of the game. And then, not being able to really practice throughout the flag football season. So, we got to get our legs up under us and some more practice, some more games, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, and shout out to Coach Ramsey Dunn for Harris County. She's got a phenomenal program there.
Yes.
And they're going to win probably their region. I like them a lot. We'll be broadcasting their game against Carver on Wednesday. That's going to be a really good one. But, Coach, let's talk about your team. First, we'll start with Ivana Thomas. I know everyone wants the news because last year she was your leading scorer before she gets hurt. And she had a very bad nagging knee injury that she ended up having to have surgery on. When do we expect Miss Thomas to be back in the lineup?
Possibly after Christmas, early January.
Is her progression coming good, though, Coach?
Yes. I mean, she's out here running. We're running with her. I actually ran today with her. So even a parent got out here and ran with her. So, hey, we're doing what we need to do to help her get back on the court, to make our team a little bit more healthy, give us a little bit more balance. So, she's pushing, and we got a program that's going to help her get back where she need to get to.
Yeah, and I was talking with Jeremy Hayes. He's excited about the way Ivana's been getting better each and every week with her knee, and that's just going to take your team to a whole another level.
Yes.
But let's talk about some of the other players. You return your point guard and Zaniyah Crouch, a freshman last year that had a great season. And as a guy, and I wanted to start there because as a guy that played point guard at the highest level, Coach, and by the way, he was out there practicing with them tonight, scrimmaging. He was letting it fly 30 feet and then letting them know about it after he hit it. But you're really hard on the point guards, as you should be because you're a former point guard. How do you think Zaniyah has been this offseason, and how do you think her sophomore year is going to be this year?
Offseason, it's been pretty good. Against Harris County, she didn't do very well, but she responded the next day. I already watched film. Already told me her corrections she needed to make.
Awesome.
So I basically told her, I'm gonna be hard on you because as a point guard, you're the extension to me. So it's the point guard responsibility. If someone's not doing what they're supposed to, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You the oldest child, it's your fault.
Right.
For whatever your siblings do. So the same thing with your teammates. And it's gonna take some time for her to grow into. She's still young, still learning what we're trying to do. So I'm gonna be hard on her. She know that, she expects that, and I think she's doing very well. So we can get to the level that we're trying to get to.
Yeah, made it to the Elite Eight last year. We talked about with Coach Black, they made it to the state championship game and came just short. The Pacelli girls, they made it Elite Eight. That was their best season, and if you look, they had the most wins in Pacelli girls basketball history, and if you combine the past 2 or 3 seasons, they still don't equal the amount of wins you had last year, and you think that's the low point of where you could build this program and where it's heading. Let's talk about some of the newcomers, like Grace Smith, who was an all-world player over at Rothschild, literally played every sport there. She's really good at flag football here. But I think basketball is her main go-to. She loves basketball, and she's another person that can play off-ball or point guard. And Michaela Hosley, who brother Malachi Hosley, by the way, was an all-conference Ivy Leaguer, by the way, at Penn. Yes. And you see with Michaela, she's something else, and she dominated that second half. The problem was it just couldn't put the ball in the basket, but she had 5-6 blocks that game. Talk about your newcomers in this year and how excited you about them.
Before we get to the newcomers, I'm gonna correct you. We didn't have the record. Art Thomas did.
Oh,
Art Thomas.
Let me, because I know he would get mad at me. Art Thomas.
I ain't gonna sit here and let it be on me.
It was the first time we've had double-digit wins in 15 years, but Art Thomas had a lot of winning seasons.
Hey, he ain't finna be calling me in a minute talking about, hey.
He could have he'll tell me on Wednesday. My bad, Art. Legend himself. Right.
So, Michaela Hosley, versatile player. She's She just got to get in, understand what we're trying to do. She can play in and out, but she got to get in a little bit more shape and understand that she can get her shot anytime. She got to be a facilitator, a playmaker first, and run the floor, rebound, and just do the little things to help our team and learn to become a leader. Learn to become a leader of a new group and just lead by example.
Yeah. And I think that's what she's going to do. Jayla Moore returns from last year's team. I think she's going to get better. Again, a lot of these girls were freshmen last year. And then if you look at your roster, Kamari Figgins is the only senior that is on your team this year. So this is a young team that you know is, and Tamaya Ransom, another girl that is extremely athletic. But I saw you working on some things today, Coach. What are some of the progressions you want to see from your team last Thursday, losing to Harris County, to now against Bethlehem Christian on Tuesday night at 6:30?
One of the progressions we want to look at is moving the ball, court spacing, getting back in transition, and then just taking care of the basketball. Those were some of the main things that you need to do to win a basketball game. And we played against Harris County, and we gave up 28 points off turnovers.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to take care of the ball, that will kill you. That would kill you. So we're making those corrections. The girls are doing a good job of watching film. They even bringing film to me, so
that's awesome.
They understand what we're trying to do, and they understand how to watch the film and work on getting better.
Well, and also I got to make a correction. Bethlehem Christian takes on the Lady Vikings at 5,
yes,
and 6:30 is the varsity team. I said 6:30 is when the girls play, and then it's 8. No, we had a thing last week with Calvary. It was middle school, JV, varsity girls, varsity boys. We didn't walk out of there till 10:30. The varsity boys game didn't start till 9 o'clock. We don't have to worry about that on Tuesday, thankfully.
Yeah, I seen that. I said, man, what y'all doing, playing midnight basketball
brother,
over there?
it was late, man. But, Coach, I'm excited about this team. Let's talk about some of your roster, your schedule. Thankfully, after Tuesday, you get about 10 days to get some practice in. So you get 2 games, work on film, and then really get in with the girls. 10 days of practice. You got Douglas County, you play Wheeler, play Hiram, however you want to say it, Lithia Springs, Northgate, Upson Lee. That's in a tournament. Then you got Newton, St. Mary's. You schedule similarly the way Coach Black did. Why'd you take on all these tough teams, man? Why not take on teams that you know you can beat and be undefeated? Why play against the tougher teams that you know you may lose to, but maybe can get you better for the end goal for a state championship?
At the end of the day, you want to see where you at. You want to get battle tested. You want to play against a measuring stick, see where you at. But not only that, we're focused on having a D-free program. So if we want our girls to be seen, we got to go against and play against competition. So coaches can really evaluate the players against better competition. So that's our vision. That's why we got it set up that way, so we can get a real evaluation. Because, when coaches ask to send film, you can't send film of kids just laying the basketball up. You want to see the whole film.
That's a great point,
They want to see the whole film of what they look like in transition. What do they look like when this team is playing this type of zone or offense or whatever? How do they move throughout the offense? So when you play against challenging teams, you're able to see that things about players. And how do they respond?
I think that's a great point, Coach, and I'm going to hit on that right before we get out of here, is when college coaches are looking and they're seeing maybe a girl or boy put up 25 points and they see the talent they're going against, even if they had a great game and did all the right things, didn't have turnovers, great, it was able to be coached, they still see, you know what, but look what they're doing against. It's going to be different when they get here at the college level. So now you facing against the top teams. When you send that film, you're like, well, this is a 7A school. This is a 6A school. This is a 5A school. They're doing it against. She can do it against everyone. She can play at the next level. So that's a great job by you and Coach Black. Well, again, Tuesday, Bethlehem Christian, first home game here at the Land. Georgia Alabama Sports Live will be there for that, girls and boys. Then on Friday, boys only against Christian Heritage. And then on Saturday, boys only against Valdosta. And then we got games next week against Douglas County. Well, thank you to Coach Brian Thomas. Thank you to Coach Corey Black. This is the Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. And then me and Richard, we're going to do our show from here. And we got a lot to talk about. Florida State getting left out. That's fired up about everyone in the mob. We can't wait to talk about it here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. Be back after this. Welcome back, everyone. Thrift Behringer, Richard Holzer's Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. And we did the Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show. Thank you to Corey Black. Thank you to Bryant Thomas. We'll do that every other week. And this was the initial one right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I told you it's 2 shows in 1 video. And we're excited to now do the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. We're going to first start, and I got my guy Richard. I forgot I'm starting, and I haven't brought my guy in, Richard Holdridge. And I want to first start with high school playoffs, but before that, I got to give some shout-outs. This past week, I had the honor and privilege of being the play-by-play announcer for 3 of the 4, and I broadcast it all. I was the color guy for one of the other one, for GIAA.TV state championship games. Thank you to Tony. Thank you to Brett Taylor for believing in me and allowing me the opportunity. Jeremy Hayes was there, Russ and Reese Lenig. They were there as well. It was an incredible broadcast, incredible 2 days of calling 4 state championship games. And that made 6 that I've called this year, Richard. I called the Glenwood Lee Scott. You unfortunately had to miss that. You were there for the Calvary and Skip Zone game. And then these past 4, and I was able to do Brooks Zone as they came up short against First Presbyterian Day. But just unbelievable experience to be able to do that at Mercer Stadium. Macon. Mercer has a beautiful field. I don't think you've ever been there, Richard. It was a great experience. And I want to say thank you for everyone that showed me love and was watching it, and specifically DJ Jones and my girlfriend. They were really showing me a lot of love watching the game and telling me how good of a job I was doing. But it was, again, having a spotter, having a statistician. I mean, it was an all-out broadcast. But I'm appreciative of what we do at Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and they were telling me how they think we have a tremendous A1 broadcast every time we do it, whether it's football, baseball, or basketball. And that goes to Chris, that goes to Toygar, and yourself, Richard. But thank you again, the GIAA, for allowing me that opportunity. And it looks like I'll maybe doing basketball when it's here at Columbus State for the state championship. So that would definitely be pretty cool. So that's where I wanted to start, and saying thank you to everyone. Also, actually, I'll save the college football and my experience yesterday for later on. So let's say with high school football, we'll start with Flint River. Shout out to Joe Howard. When we were there and we called that game against Calvary, we heard first down, Wildcats, probably about 350 times. It was a blowout. Flint River dominated everybody in front of them. They were 11-0 coming in, and they had a tough matchup against Robert Toombs. Robert Toombs had 5 times they were inside the zone and weren't able to capitalize and score a touchdown. But Flint River able to hold on, play great defense, and for Coach Hoffman, Kirk Hoffman, that's just state championship since taking over the program back in 2016. And I know those Wildcat fans, including Joe Howard and the rest of their staff and the players, Trent Young, Lucas Martin, Michael plays for John Millage, but the rest of the Flint River Academy Wildcats, great season, and they become state champions.
Well, I'll tell you what, Thrift, the entire town of Woodbury was probably at their biggest establishment on that corner, that sports bar and that fruit stand that they have in Woodbury, and they were live streaming the game that you broadcast on GIAA TV, and Woodbury, they rallied. A lot of them went down to Five Star Stadium down in Macon, but the whole town is proud of the Flint River Academy Wildcats. Undefeated season, congratulations. And I know that, we're friends with Joe Howard, the voice of the Wildcats. I know he was excited. He texted me right after they won. And,
loved it.
And I jokingly said, are they going to have a parade in Woodbury? I mean, I think they should.
Would you go to the parade?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a huge event for the entire town of Woodbury. When we were there at Woodbury, it seemed like the whole town shut down. They were at the Flint River Stadium for that game.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, again, to be able to call that state championship. So good job for Flint River. Moving on, Brooks Zone, who upset Pacelli, the number 3 seed, then upset undefeated Bullock on the road the next week, and then they took on FPD. FPD's got a guy in Jakari Williams. He wore number 2. He played like Jaden Daniels. The guy can make plays with his legs. He can throw the ball on the run and throw a 60-yard seed. There was a lot of busted plays in the secondary, but I thought a lot of that had to do with the playmakers and the play calls from Coach Collier and FPD. They just were on another level, and a great season for Brooks Zone. They did make it respectable. It was 44-10 at one point, and
Right.
yet Brookstone scored 2 straight touchdowns, got an onside kick, almost scored 3 straight. And that's the no-quit mentality that Coach Gillespie has instilled in Brookstone. And in his first 2 seasons, losing in the Final Four and in the state championship, he eventually is going to get Brookstone that coveted state championship game. They want it. I don't think they have it in football or basketball, and I know they want it really bad. So they're going to come up, and they return a lot of players next year. But great season for Brookstone.
Absolutely. Congratulations to the Brookstone Cougars on an incredible season. If you look at the players they lost from last year's team, Andrew Alford goes to Central. Walter Blanchard's playing at Georgia. You have Dimitri Flowers, their leading rusher. Lane Cannon came in, and he did just fine, filling in the gaps. And Brooks Roney, great quarterback. He is going to be back. Chris Vickerson, a great possession tight end type receiver. I thought that Brookstone had a very incredible season. They were just going up against a team in First Presbyterian Day that, they are a juggernaut. I mean, they have been dominant all season, and, they just came up short in the state championship.
Yeah, they did, but great job by Roney, Lane Cannon, Chris Vickerson, who was a tight end defensive end. He had a really good state championship game. I was proud of the Cougars, and all the Cougar fan base should be as well. Savannah Christian took on Carver, and Carver's defense just came up short. I think Savannah Christian's a juggernaut. They're having a great season,
Absolutely.
11-2 on the year, and they came in to Otis Spencer Stadium, and they just laid it on the Tigers. Carver, if they were going to win this, they knew they had to keep it low scoring and win it defensively, time of possession, dominate the running game inside the trenches. It was 36 at halftime. Savannah Christian just opened the doors open. But Carver, everybody doubted them. 2-3, won 8 straight games, and finished 10-4 on the season. Great job by the Carver Tigers, making it to the Final Four, winning 3 playoff games, and came up 1 game for making it to the state championship. Can you believe that, Richard?
I cannot
Especially
believe
the way
it.
the season was playing out.
Exactly, but they got to host a playoff game at Otis Spencer Stadium in December, a semifinal matchup, and it was great for the community in Columbus to rally around the Carver Tigers and Coach Pierre Coffey in his 2nd season. When you think of the Carver Tigers, you think of just all the great players that played in the NFL, that played at the next level, and this Carver team is young. They have weathered the storm through playoff experience, and I think they're just going to continue to get better. It's just that Savannah Christian was a very tough team. They were a number 2 seed, but they're in the same bracket with Calvary Day.
Yeah.
And Calvary Day went undefeated. They did lose to Cedar Grove. Savannah Christian will play Cedar Grove in the state championship at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But Savannah Christian, it was within the first 2 minutes, they were already up 17-0. And it was hard for Carver to dig out of that hole. And they also had 2 defensive touchdowns, and it was just too much. Savannah Christian put up 51 on that Carver defense. Very impressive.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to win the state championship for 3A.
Central takes on Thompson, and Central has been the most dominant team in this area.
Yeah,
They've been
absolutely.
our number 1 team. We're going to have a show later on this week. We don't know the day specifically, but we'll put that out there. We'll have one more show. But Central, if they do win, they'll finish number 1 in our final GAS live rankings. But they got to finish the job. Central team that came up short against McGill-Tulane all those years. Remember, they kept losing in the Final Four to McGill-Tulane. They finally get over that hump and dominate Thompson in 2018. And since then, Thompson has won the 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 state championships. The last time any other team won it was Central, and
Right.
they beat Thompson. Thompson's made it to 6 straight state championship games. They returned their quarterback, who was an 8th grader last year, now a freshman. Thompson's only loss is to an undefeated Clay Chalkville. Was it Clay Chalkville or Saraland? I think
was
it's Clay
Clay- it was Clay Chalkville.
who's undefeated, playing in the state championship
Against
game.
Saraland.
Against
Yep.
Saraland. So Clay Chalkville, also the highest rated team in Max Preps in Alabama.
Right.
I put Central there, but that's neither here nor there. I just don't see it, man. I don't think, and this is Coach Nix's best team, by the way. Cam Coleman flipped to Auburn.
Oh, I saw that.
Congratulations to Hugh Freeze. But the Central Red Devils, I think they're gonna take Thompson down in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And remember, last time they played in Bryant-Denny, they lost to Thompson back in 2019. How do you think this is going to play out, Richard?
I think Central's going to go into Bryant-Denny Stadium and get the win over Thompson. It's going to be a much closer game. Thompson still has a very talented team, And Trent Seaburn, the freshman who had a huge game as an 8th grader when they played Auburn in the state championship, which Central is out to try to get a state championship. They felt like they should have been in the state title game last year, but Auburn upset them in the semifinals.
Yep.
But Central has been just the better team, and really it's been the perfect marriage between, you have Andrew Alford, the quarterback that played at Brookstone, playing under Coach Patrick Nix's system, and he has weapons, not just Cam Coleman, but he also has Dalen Upshaw. He has Dylan Gentry.
Yeah.
And you also can't forget about the running back, Zach Simmons.
Come on.
And then you look at all the defensive stars. You go down Rivals.com. I mean, the stars are going to be playing at the next level. Central is loaded. And even though Thompson is loaded as well, Central's been playing the best all year, and really their closest win was only by 10 points. And so it's been dominant.
It would be an upset if
I
Thompson
think it would.
I think it would be a huge upset.
Central should be the favorite going into this game.
Wednesday night, we'll be watching it, Richard. It's
Absolutely.
gonna be on Alabama Public Television. We'll be streaming that. We won't have it on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, but we'll be watching the stream.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about that. And by the way, if Central wins, and we hopefully will see them, and the rest of the schools that will be at the Sports Visions Awards Luncheon. Calvary came up just short, Brookstone came up short, Glenwood came up short, and Central's the 4th team in this area to play in a state championship. And we're going to have the Sports Visions Awards Luncheon Thursday. Hugh Freeze will be guest speaker. Myself and DJ Jones will be presenting awards. You'll be there, part of the media, with Hoppy and Reese from WTVM, and Redmond and Patterson and Castillo for WRBL. So we can't wait for it. It's at the St. Luke Ministry Center at 11:30. We'll have that video out as soon as we're done with the luncheon, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for it. Sports Vision Awards Luncheon this Thursday. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. And something happened today. I don't know if you knew that, Richard, but the playoff committee made their rankings and their top 4. And we're going to give our thoughts on that in just a second. But let's talk about what happened last night in the SC Championship game. I had the pleasure, because I work for Sports Visions and DJ Jones, and I was a credentialed media. And I got to be on the field pregame, and I got to be there and watch what I thought was one of the best SC Championship games we've seen in a few years. It's always a classic when these two teams face off. But I just had a feeling. As much as I talked about, I was picking Georgia on Sports Visions. I thought they were the better team coming into the game. In my gut, Nick Saban wins these. He's played in 10 SEC championships. He's won 9 of them. The only time he's lost has been the only time he wasn't favored in that game back in 08. Now, he wasn't favored against Georgia in 21 or in this year in 23, and he's 2-0 in those games. The only time he's lost when he hasn't been favored was back again in 08 to, I think, one of the best teams of all time, that 08 Florida team, Richard.
Right.
But since then, 9 straight. Hasn't lost to Georgia, beat them in 12, beat them in 18, beat them in 21, and now beat them in 22. 4-0 against them, 12, 18, 21, and 23. 4-0 against him in the SC Championship game. Milroe made the necessary plays when needed to. I looked at one point, he had like a 44% completion percentage, but had the explosive plays, was able to get it out to his playmakers. They were able to run the football. I thought they dominated the line of scrimmage, and I honestly thought Georgia, through majority of that game, they made mistakes in play calling, and Bobo has been phenomenal this entire year. I thought he had his worst called game against Alabama. And a lot of credit goes to Kevin Steele and that Alabama defense. Georgia has not faced a defensive line like that all season long.
No, they haven't.
So you saw that their offensive linemen, they did struggle with the block. Turner had a really good game. They were able to get after Beck when needed to. Georgia did respond a couple times being down by 10. But when the lights weren't on them, and in that pressurized moments, Jalen Milroe came up big. And a great win for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
With the exception of that first drive, Georgia took it down the field and scored that first touchdown. The play calling for offensive coordinator Mike Bobo was conservative. Running it on 1st and 2nd down and getting into a 3rd and 2 situation, you got to give Alabama's defense credit for making the necessary stops. I thought Alabama played a little bit aggressive, getting that pass to the former Georgia wide receiver Jermaine Burton, and just an incredible catch. Whether it was a catch or not, Isaiah Bond, I thought it should have went to replay, but I think missing that field goal for Georgia was huge. I know it hit off the cross post. It was a 50-yarder. The false start, like if it was a 45-yarder, it would have gone in.
Right.
And we're talking about a 10-10 ball game. But with Alabama taking the 17-7 lead at the half, they were aggressive in that first half. I thought with Georgia down by 10, I mean, they did a good job marching down the field and keeping it close. But I felt like when it was 20-17, Alabama had the ball. Jalen Milroe, all the pressure was on him because so far in this second half, Alabama hasn't done anything.
How about Nick Saban going for it on 4th and 4?
Very gutsy
honestly,
call.
I thought that was the play of the game.
Absolutely.
And
aggressive.
And just being able to go for that, throw it up to Isaiah Bond, who was great all game long. And Nick Saban 3-0 against Kirby Smart in SEC Championship game, 4-0 against Georgia. Big time win for Alabama. And that leads us to our next point, Richard. The College Football Playoff Committee. And I'm not going to go first because I went first on that SEC Championship game. Again, incredible experience. Hospitality was at its finest. Just got to see a lot of people. Our guy Josh Pate, got to talk with Peter Burns, got to see Noshawn Marino. I mean, you talking about DJ Jones? That guy knows everyone. You got Hall of Famers coming up and dapping him up. Everybody knows who DJ. Greg Sankey saying hey to DJ. I mean, I'm living the dream right now when I'm walking around with my guy. And the food was excellent, obviously. It's a lot of fun to be there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for what was the last SEC on CBS broadcast, probably ever, because I don't know if they're ever going to leave ESPN. It's going to be a long time. But the committee came out with their rankings today, and there's been a lot of uproar. Richard, the floor is yours. Simple question, but I think it's going to be a unique and complex answer. Did they get it right?
I do feel that they've got the best matchups in this college football playoff. But if you look at the history...
And tell everyone the matchups that have not been paying attention.
Like, if you've not been paying attention to the rankings, the matchup is Alabama is going to play Michigan in the Rose Bowl.
That's 1 versus 4.
In 1 versus 4. Washington's going to play Texas in the Sugar Bowl.
Washington 2, Texas 3.
And I think those are good matchups. They're very compelling. I'm going to watch them. But
Did they get it right?
They did get it right as far as putting the 4 best teams. Because really, is it the 4 best teams or the 4 most deserving teams? In the history of the college football playoff, there has never been an undefeated Power 5 conference champion that has been left out of the college football playoff. And I can understand the uproar on Florida State not getting in. They were undefeated. They lost Jordan Travis in that game against North Alabama.
Right.
But they won with their backup quarterback. I understand that the committee was looking at that ACC championship game against Louisville, and they barely won 16-6. That defense is a college football playoff defense, but their third-string quarterback just did not move the ball down the field with ease, and it was only 16-6. And that might have been in the back of the college football playoff committee's minds that maybe Florida State would not be the best matchup. But you've got to remember, you play the games. It's really, why are we playing the games if you're putting a 1-loss team over an undefeated team? But I understand why they put Alabama in over Florida State.
And by the way, this has been phenomenally produced by my guy, Chris Gates, and you see the rankings up right now. I'm going to say this. I know there's a lot of uproar, but here's my thought process, Richard. Did anyone really think that Alabama was going to be left out?
No.
And I want to think about the ramifications if you leave Alabama and Georgia out. I get that the argument that you're making, that Florida State finished undefeated, even with their third-string quarterback, they beat a Louisville team who I think is better than Iowa. And honestly, I thought they looked just as good as Michigan did last night. Michigan didn't look too good, and they didn't look that good in the first half. It didn't matter because they just needed to win the game, and they ended up winning 26-0 because they were going to be in automatically. But think about if they left out Alabama and Georgia, what would happen? The uproar from Greg Sankey. I don't think they wanted to deal with that.
No.
I think this is a hot take. I think that if SEC would have got left out, they would have made conversations about removing their league from the NCAA. Think about that. Getting away from having their own playoff, having their own national champion. I think that's what would have happened. And I think that was in the committee's mind. I think that was in Bill Hancock's mind. If we don't have an SEC team in here, teams like Alabama and Georgia, who their only losses were to playoff teams, Georgia in the SEC championship by 3 on a neutral field against Alabama, and Alabama at home against Texas, who's the number 3 team in the country according to the committee. You're going to leave them both out roster-wise. Obviously, they got the best rosters in college football, and I don't think it's close with anyone else. I think Michigan's got a good team. Washington's got a great team. Texas got a really good roster, but no one compares to Alabama and Georgia. So for those that are really upset, and I know there's Florida State fans out there that just couldn't believe that their team did not make it. And I know it bothers them, because it would bother me if my team did make it. But looking in the mirror, do not ever compare your roster to what that Ohio State roster was back in 2014. For one, Ezekiel Elliott had 2,000 yards rushing. Florida State's good. They don't have no one near the running back caliber of Ezekiel Elliott. Think about Evan Spencer, Michael Thomas on the outside, Curtis Samuel. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And we learned that Cardell Jones was a really good third-string quarterback. That's one of the best quarterback rooms I think we've ever seen when it comes to college. I know none of them were good pros, but Cardell, JT, and then, I can't even think of his name, Braxton Miller. Even with Cardell being the third string, they took on Wisconsin, who was a top 12 team, favored in that game, and beat them 59-0. If Florida State beats Louisville 59-0, I think Florida State's in. If the third-string quarterback, Brock Glenn, played like Cardell Jones did in that game, I think Florida State's in. Because you can make the argument, heck, they just beat Wisconsin like Ohio State did 59-0. We got to put them in. That's still a really good team, and they're competitive, and they can compete with Alabama. There's no chance Florida State can compete, even with Roadmaker coming in against Michigan. I just don't. I think Florida State's got a really good defense. It's hard to compare, again, to what Ohio State was, because Ohio State, their offense was not predicated on quarterback. It was a quarterback-friendly offense. That means a lot of people could play that position and be successful in that system with Tom Herman. I don't see that at Florida State. I think they needed Jordan Travis, and I hate it, because argument is, you look at their resume, they deserve to be in. Obviously, Power 5 undefeated team, beat LSU, beat Florida, beat everyone on their schedule, and then with the third-string quarterback, beat Louisville. But there's no way Alabama's getting left out. You can make the argument Washington, who had like 9 straight weeks of single-digit wins, maybe they shouldn't have been put in, but they're undefeated, and they have their quarterback who's going to be a Heisman Trophy contender. I know it's a tough pill to swallow, and I know now this is where everybody else is going to say we need more teams, but here's the thing. What this is going to do, adding 12-team playoff, and if you look at the 12-team playoff, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Penn State, none of them were sniffing. Oklahoma a little bit, because they did beat Texas, but Ole Miss and Penn State, Ole Miss lost to Georgia and Bama by double digits. Penn State lost to Michigan and Ohio State. Neither of them, one of them, were close to winning their conference, yet they be in the playoff. It's hard for me to buy into the big playoff format. I like the 6. I like first top 2 teams get a bye and then have 6. I think there's 6 teams right now. If you look, the 6 teams and throw out Ohio State, the 6 teams in Georgia, Florida State, Bama, Texas, Washington, Michigan, I think should have made the playoffs. You can make that counter. You go to 12 teams, then you're telling teams you don't have to win their conference. I know it's going to be a big deal. I know guys like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban are going to say, hey, I want them. We want to win the SEC. It means something to us. Okay, but it doesn't decide if you make the playoff or not. You can go 10-2. Like Auburn next year could lose to Georgia and Alabama on the road and still make the playoff. Think about that. You lose to your biggest rivals. You don't even come close to winning your conference, yet you have a chance to win a national championship. Times are changing. I don't know if I believe in it, but those who wish for it, if you think that now it doesn't matter because, you're saying, well, Florida State not making it, it doesn't matter what they do on the field. You're saying it's just about the best teams. Well, that's dang sure what's going to happen when we have the 12-team format. So your argument, I understand most deserving, but I think the committee got it right, ultimately, Richard. And I think it's Michigan, Alabama's going to be a great game, and I think Washington, Texas is going to be a good game. I honestly would have put Georgia in over Washington. I'm just not a believer that they're one of the top 4 teams. I think they're a top 6 team. I would have done Michigan, Georgia, Bama, Texas again. I think those are the 4 best teams and the best matchups, dream matchups everybody wants. But ultimately, I'm fine with what they came up with. Any final thoughts, Richard?
Well, luckily, this is the final year for the 4-team college football playoff.
How do you feel about it? Because our guy Josh Pate, he doesn't like it.
Well, this year was very special because we could have put at least 6. I think 6 is perfect.
And just like in 2014, this was the last time. The last time this happened was 2014. All the other years, we were vying. Come on. Last year, Ohio State getting in at 11-1 and Bama at 10-2. I mean, that's not really that hard of an argument, in my opinion. Bama lost 2 games. Okay.
Yeah.
Previous year, Cincinnati undefeated, getting in over a 2-loss team. Didn't bother me, okay? But this year, just like in 2014 when Baylor and TCU got left out because they did their co-champion nonsense, instead of just declaring Baylor champions, they probably would have been put in over Ohio State. It's the first time we had controversy.
Yes.
And it came probably, like you said, at the right time, considering the fact that now we're expanding next year.
I agree. I thought that Georgia should have been in because they were one of the 4 best teams. They had played an incredible game against Alabama. Could have went either way. I thought that Georgia played very well. And Kirby Smart said they are going to play up against Florida State in the Orange Bowl. I'm looking forward to this game. I mean, I know that Florida State, there's talks, well, if they beat Georgia, I mean, Georgia is going to be favored by at least 2 touchdowns, and they should win. There's some talks. Is Brock Bowers going to play in the bowl game? Are they going to have some players sit out? I don't want Georgia to have a situation where the consolation prize where they had to play Texas in 2018, and they just did not go up to that game. Sam Ehlinger just went off and had a great game against Georgia. But I want to see a good game. I think that Georgia has to prove a point that they are still one of the best teams in college football, and they'll be back. I know Georgia fans are down that they're not in the college football playoff, but they will be back. I mean,
and they return a majority of their players.
Absolutely.
Richard. But I'm going to use this one phrase. You got flawed people trying to perfect an imperfect system, and that's what the college football playoff committee is. They're flawed, just like all human beings are.
Right.
With an imperfect system, and then you want them to be perfect at getting it right. It's not going to happen. Obviously, with all human beings, they're going to be what's consistent in their terminology and the way they go about their criteria in picking these games. So if you have that mindset, flawed humans trying to perfect an imperfect system, you're going to get results like this, and you won't be upset or in an uproar because you should have expected this to happen. If you're a Florida State fan, you should have known something like this was going to happen. For all those that are saying it's about money, I don't think it's just about money. It's also about ratings. It's about a lot of things and a lot of factors that go into the way they pick, the way they do. But obviously, when you're having millions and millions and close to billions of dollars into these 2 games, you want it to be the best product. And the best product didn't have Florida State in it. So I have no problem with it. And we'll move on. New Year's Six game, though, Georgia and Florida State. Penn State, Missouri. I think that's going to be a good one.
I'd compete right here in Atlanta.
I'd put a lot of money on Missouri on that. How about Liberty? Jamie Chadwell.
Great job.
Into the Fiesta Bowl, and I think they're going to get smoked
by Oregon
if Bo Nix decides to play in that game. Atlanta Falcons get a ugly, and this is how they're going to play this year, Falcons fans, so just get over it. Ugly win over the Jets, 13-8. Defense came up big.
It's hard to watch.
It was like watching paint dry.
It really
was.
It wasn't as bad as the Chargers and Patriots.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that one. But Saints lost, and even if Tampa Bay won, they're still a game ahead of all the teams, and I think they're the favorite. And if you look at the schedule, they'll win 10 games this year, go 10-7, I think, 11-6 around there. They may win out, honestly, the way their schedule's set up. This is one of their tough games on the road. Probably 10-7, Saints at the Saints. But I do think that the Falcons will win. But Ritter, who had a decent game today.
He didn't make the big mistake.
He didn't make them the big mistake like he had in the past. But whenever they finally get that guy at the quarterback position, I just don't think it's Ritter. The Falcons roster tells me they're a team, and looking at the NFC, you got the Eagles, you got the 49ers, you got the Lions. But roster-wise, aside from the quarterback, Falcons match up with all of them. But their quarterback is what's going to be their Achilles heel. But a big win over the Jets, go to 6-6, get back to 500. That's back-to-back wins, and they now are atop the NFC South division.
And they are a game and a half above the Saints, who lost to the Lions today. So if the playoffs were to end today, the Falcons would host a playoff game at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the first round. More than likely, they'll probably play the Cowboys, or the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles lost to the 49ers today, and then they have to play the Cowboys next week. But right now, they have the 5th best record in the NFC. Yeah. The NFC, it's top heavy. Eagles, 49ers, Lions, Cowboys. They are the class of the NFC. And then the bottom, the Saints are really not helping themselves out. The Buccaneers did get the win over Carolina today. The Rams actually won a game. I mean, and the Seahawks are free-falling. I don't know what's going on with the Seahawks. I mean, they lost to the Cowboys on Thursday night. I mean, they got to play the 49ers and the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't think the Seahawks are going to make it. And you didn't even mention your team, the 49ers, just laying the wood to the Eagles. And the Eagles have been winning a lot of, just like last week against the Chiefs, games, and they were down 17-7 games they probably shouldn't have, those single-digit one-possession games, and they finally got it handed to them.
Yeah.
And honestly now, I think San Francisco, Brock Purdy played great. I think that they're fully healthy, and I think the 49ers, I think they're the best team in football. The Chiefs are right now losing to the Packers, but I'm looking at everyone, and that includes the Ravens, who are a little bit up and down. I know they're 8-3, actually 9-3, they won. I think the 49ers have the best team in football.
Well, the game started off very slow. The Eagles came out.
Down 6-0.
They were down 6-0. Hats off to the 49ers defense for holding the Eagles to 2 field goals, because Jalen Hurts was just marching up and down the field. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is the MVP of the league, but the 49ers responded. I thought that Brock Purdy, he got those jitters, because I know in the back of his mind, this is where he got hurt in the NFC Championship game. Hassan Reddick was in the backfield, and I know that had to cross his mind, but they stuck to the game plan, and I think that they have the most dynamic weapons: Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, who's probably going to win MVP. Their defense, they still are very good between the 20s. They're a bend-don't-break defense, but I think right now they are in the driver's seat to get the number 1 seed, because they have the tiebreaker with the Eagles. I think the Eagles lose to Dallas next week. The 49ers beat the Seahawks, and really their most toughest game is on Christmas when they play the Baltimore Ravens, but it's at home. Yeah. So I think the 49ers
That's going to be a good one on Christmas Day.
I cannot wait.
The Ravens are 9-3, but NFL, a lot of teams, this is, I think, the most parity, and everything's up for grabs. I know.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say, obviously, the Chiefs, I think they're going to come back and win tonight. They're down 14-3 on the road. They're 8-3. I still think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they're probably the favorite to make it the Super Bowl, but I think the favorite to win it has got to be the 49ers this year. And came up short in 2012, came up short in 2019, came up short last year in the NFC Championship game, and the year before that in the NFC Championship game. Eventually, they're going to finally get over the top and get that six Super Bowl ring for franchise history. But it's been a lot of fun. We will talk about college basketball as we continue on through the rest of this year.
Huge upsets.
Yeah, we're not going to talk week by week. I know Tech, shout out to our guy Persian Williams, upset in Duke. Auburn getting upset against Appalachian State. Kentucky losing UNC Nashville. I mean, a lot of upsets are happening. And Purdue looking like the dominant team right now, but it's early. And again, I told you with Purdue, I don't care what they do in the regular season. I need to see what they do during the March Madness. And then NBA, the in-season tournament, I think it's next week, or is it this week?
They're having the semifinal games next week, and then they'll have the championship.
We'll talk about those when we do the show. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you again for watching the Pacelli Basketball Show. Thank you for watching us today. Go Red Devils. They take on Thompson. We'll be cheering for them. I think the committee got it right. So does Richard. And then the Falcons get a big win. So coming up this week, tomorrow, we got Glenwood taking on Southern Prep. Richard, you'll be on the call there with Toygar. He'll be producing it. Tuesday, I'll be here for Bethlehem Christian, home opener for the boys. And the girls are playing their second game. It's 5 and 6:30. And then on Wednesday, Harris County Carver. Thursday, CVCC boys. Friday, Pacelli boys only against Christian Heritage. Saturday, Pacelli boys only against Valdosta State. And then CVCC girls and boys playing on Alumni Day starting at 2:30, and then after the boys will be at 4:30. So that's 6 straight days of basketball right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So from Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift Behringer saying thank y'all so much. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you later.